Welcome, everyone, to day 3 of the Sugar Detox Challenge. So, to recap, on day 1, we talked about awareness. So, I had you write down everything you ate in that day on day 1, and also look at what symptoms do you have. And a lot of these can come from imbalanced blood sugar. So, a day 1 was kind of awareness. What did I eat in a day? And also, what are the impacts? Day 2 was to identify the places where you could change to eat for blood sugar balance. So, if you look at everything that you had on day 1 and go step by step, you can see the places where is there no protein? Where is there no fiber, no fruits and vegetables? And also, where is there excess sugar? So that was what we did on day 2, because knowing how to eat for blood sugar balance is really key in this. Because what can happen is that it's easy to do a sugar detox challenge and just say, stop all of the sugar. But if you don't look at everything else around the sugar, what happens is, number one, you can feel like, well, everything I eat has sugar in it. So I have no idea. There's nothing to eat. I literally can't eat anything. It can feel like that. So you got to look at what you can eat. Or you could be eating so much kind of processed food or quick carbohydrates or just in an imbalanced way, so that you take the sugar out, but then what's left is gonna leave you really hungry and really craving, and it's gonna feel really uncomfortable, and you might be able to get through 3 days, but you're not really going to make any progress because you're not feeding your body, you're not fueling your body. So you need to feed and fuel your body. um, yeah, it makes you really think. Thank you. Yeah, I'm on StreamYard, so I can't see anybody's names right now, but I'll see names later on when I'm able to go back in. There it should be a link there. You can authorize Facebook to pass your name to StreamYard or not, because I can go back and see it yesterday. But if you don't take care of what you're putting into your body, it's just going to make it that much harder. So, number one is you do have to feed and fuel yourself. So, that's a really important thing, because just trying to just take away the candy, and it feels like you're depriving yourself, right? It's all you're looking at is, I can't have, I can't have, I can't have, I can't have. But if you start building up, I can have, and building your plan, and it's also really satisfying and it's everything your body can use, then that at least becomes a lot easier. But it's not the end of the story, because you probably all have done quit sugar challenges before, and you've probably noticed that you can know what to do, but actually doing it is a different thing. And that's really where the brain science comes in. So one other thing I wanted to mention yesterday, I left you with the snack freebie. There's a link for the snack freebie, and there's also a link for the 3-day plan. So if you want an idea now, obviously it's hard to like get a 3-day plan one night and implement it the next day, because obviously, some things you might have to go to the store, you might have to see if you like it. But it just gives you an idea of what would a balanced 3-day kicking sugar plan look like. So you can go grab that from day 2. So today is all about mapping your triggers and the rewards, and all about brain science. So this is a really important piece of it, because if you don't deal with the brain science, you're going to end up back in the same place. So, how many people maybe have done a 10-day program, a 30-day program? Maybe you did Weight Watchers for a year, and then you ultimately just ended up right back where you were before, right? And that's because we haven't dealt with the brain piece of it. So, if you don't deal with the brain piece of it, you're going to just end up going right back to where you were before. So, can anyone feel me on that? I mean, I've experienced that same thing too. And what happens is we have coping mechanisms that we use, and different things that happen in our lives, and we need to rely on these coping mechanisms. And so we need to understand what all of those are and how we stay on track. So our brain, the purpose of our brain is to keep us alive using the least amount of energy possible, and it uses patterns and predictions to do that. So, for example, let's say that you're a smoker, or the way you first kind of started smoking is there was a stressful event, someone offered you a cigarette, it reduced the stress, and you thought, hey, this is pretty good. Then you went the next time there was a stressful event, you do that same thing again, and then pretty soon your brain starts to anticipate what events will be stressful, and it starts giving you a craving for a cigarette because it knows, hey, we did this before and it really worked. And a lot of times this happens so quickly that you don't even consciously recognize that you're thinking of something as stressful. You just have a craving. So this is where cravings come from. Cravings always come from looking for a change of state, looking for a change of mindset. So some way that you're kind of looking for a change. So another example, let's say that planning, overthinking, and looking for potential issues in the future is gives you a feeling of control. Let's say you're feeling really stressed out of control. You don't know where the threats are. So you start doing a lot of extra planning, a lot of looking for maybe this will happen, maybe that, also called worrying. Maybe this will happen, maybe that will happen, maybe this will happen, trying to head off any potential catastrophes. So maybe you start doing that, and then your brain kind of has more of a sense of control because it feels like it's doing something. And maybe when you were doing all that planning and thinking, you did come up with a good idea and it helped in some way. And so your stress went down. So then your brain uses that pattern, and then the next time it predicts or you're in that situation, it's going to serve up that as a coping mechanism. So when you wake up at 3 a.m. and a thought comes into your mind that you don't really know how to handle, you don't have control over it, your brain says, I know what to do. When you don't have control, you should think, and think, and you should look for all the things that could go wrong, because then you can stop them from happening, which is not true. We all know that's not true. So that's what part of what your brain is really trying to help you. So your brain thinks it's being helpful by serving all of this up to you. So by helping you plan and overthink. But in reality, at 3 a.m., is all that overthinking and overplanning, is that really helping you? Really not so much, right? So we're going to talk about how we unravel this tomorrow. But today is all about figuring out what the triggers and the rewards are. Okay. So same thing with sugar. So it could be happening with sugar for you. Maybe you had a bad day at work, and then you came home and you had, a big piece of cake or a cookie or whatever, and momentarily you felt some stress relief. Now, later on that night, you may have felt stressed out again, and maybe you did go back to the cookies, but your brain starts to make that association. Oh, this takes away the stress and the fear and the worry. This makes me feel good. Now, even if it's only for 10 minutes, your brain will make that association and keep taking you back to that. And so that's part of where that craving comes from. So today, we want to bring some awareness to the triggers and the cravings that you have. So here's an example. I remember talking to this woman. She was a health coach, and she worked with people who were struggling with, I think it was more overeating. But I was talking with her. Good morning. I was talking with her about sugar. And I said, well, if I have a really hard day at work and I come home, I should be able to have the cake. I mean, that's my reward for a really stressful day at work. If I'm stressed out, I should be able to reward myself with some cake. There's nothing wrong with that. And she said, that's true. There's nothing wrong with that. However, then she asked me this question. how long does it take for you to eat the cake? And she said, let's say you have the cake. How long does it take for you to eat the cake? And I said, probably about 10 minutes. And then she said, okay, so you're soothing yourself for 10 minutes. And then what? And that was such an eye-opening question for me. Okay, so I'm having the cake for 10 minutes. I feel good for that 10 minutes. And then what happens? What happens is I now have more craving. I now have more inflammation. I'm now not going to sleep better. I'm going to sleep worse. Not maybe not going to sleep great. And we start seeing all those symptoms we had, right? But during that 10-minute time, I relieved the stress. And I don't, so all my brain is looking at is the stress relief that I got, but it's not looking at the damage that it's doing or the fact that it's not really helping things. So I get a short term, I get relief for 10 minutes and that's it. So, is that really the best solution for me? So, my trigger was having this stressful day, feeling stressed out. I ate the cake, and then my reward was feeling good for that 10 minutes. And what I wanted to feel was some comfort, some relief. So, you could definitely have the cake. I'm not saying never have the cake, don't have the cake, but you have to know how else are you going to soothe yourself. How else are you going to soothe yourself? Is eating cake every time you're stressed out, is that the answer? Is that going to fix it? Because what happens is that cycle accelerates and accelerates. So sometimes you get into it before you even know that it's happening. And so when the 10 minutes is over and now you're done, now what? So you have to find, something else that you can do. So that's an important piece. So what I want you to look at, if you wrote down the things that you were eating or the things that you're craving, and what I'm talking about here are the obvious sugars. I'm not talking about the hidden sugars. So hidden sugars are things like, let's say that there are two different marinara sauces and you didn't realize that this one had sauce B had much more sugar than sauce A, but they really taste the same to you and your brain sees it both of these things the same way. I'm not talking about that. That's a hidden sugar. What I am talking about are the obvious sugars. So the things that you might use to soothe yourself or that you have a craving for. So that could be the cake, candy, pasta, whatever the things that you're really super craving. And these are the things that typically, like, you can't stop thinking about it and, you have a lot of cravings for it. So think about, for those particular things, think about what is the circumstance that happened right before you had whatever it is, the thing that you were craving. So what was the circumstance? And the circumstance could be a time of day. It was nighttime. The circumstance could be the kind of day you had. I had a really rough day. The circumstance could be I just got off the phone with my sister. The circumstance could be I just got some really scary news, or the doctor said he wants to meet with me about the outcome of my test. That's really kind of anxiety provoking. So, what were the circumstances that happened? And the circumstances could also be I went walking with a friend. And when we do this walking, we always have this cookie, whatever it is. So, what is the circumstance, the objective circumstance? What were you thinking and feeling at the time? So, it could be that it's nighttime and you're feeling kind of restless and you really want to feel calm and sleepy. Or it could be that you had a really hard day at work and you are feeling stressful and you need some serotonin. You want to feel some happiness, some relaxation. Serotonin is the happy neurotransmitter. It could be that you're agitated. You got off a phone call. It could be that you're worried. whatever it is that you were feeling, and what did you want to feel? What were you trying to feel? Because all of these cravings are related to a change in state that you're trying to get to. So maybe you need some distraction. Maybe you were bored. Maybe you sort of wanted to feel like nice and warm and heavy because that would make it easier to go to sleep. Maybe you felt agitated and you want to feel calm, or maybe you were feeling sad and you want to feel happy. So we can look at the chain of the events and see that we had a circumstance, we had a trigger, which was the circumstance and the thought or the feeling we had associated with that. And then we had the reward, how we wanted to feel, how we were feeling first, and then how we wanted to feel. So we have a neutral circumstance, we have a thought or a feeling related to that. Then we want to change our state and we use some kind of coping mechanism to get there. So you can kind of see how that works. But we can also look at what are the other things that produce that desired result. So, having the food doesn't always have to be the thing that produces the desired result. Often we get wired that way, and sometimes we get wired that way because it just happened before coincidentally. We were stressed out, we had a cookie, we felt better, and our brain makes that association. Or it could be kind of in society, this gets encoded in society. Oh, you're feeling down. Let me take you out for ice cream. Let's feel better. But really, in that last example, oh, you're feeling down. Let me take you out for ice cream. It could really be being with the other person that's helpful. And the ice cream is just there. So you can see how you can find some other things to help you feel better. So if we take some of these examples, let's say it's nighttime and you were feeling restless and you really wanted to feel calm and heavy because that's going to help you sleep. What other things can you do that would kind of help you feel sort of calm and heavy? It could be having some tea. It could be wrapping up with a weighted blanket and watching your favorite show. So those are some of the things that could sort of make you feel calm and heavy. It could also be if you're stressed out about something, or let's say you had a really bad day at work and you came home and you're really feeling stressed out and you want to feel happy, you need some serotonin. You could decide to go out for a walk around the block. Maybe you take the dog out for a walk around the block. It could be that maybe you had this really weird interaction with a relative and you're feeling really kind of annoyed about it. Or maybe you're thinking about a job interview tomorrow, and then all of a sudden stuff starts going in your mouth. So maybe what you need in that situation is you're worried about it. Maybe you need to journal about it. So, like, kind of processing it. Maybe you need to be busy. So you call a friend and you go do something. Or maybe at night you need to keep your hands busy with a puzzle or with some knitting or something like that. So, um, this is always related to all of these cravings are related to wanting a change in your state. So if you can start to catalog what is the reward that you're getting, and you can start to see where all of your triggers are, and then we can start talking about where they're unwinding. So there was a great book. Oh, here it is. This is a great book. It's called Unwinding Anxiety. So this is specifically about anxiety, but you can use this for quitting sugar. You can use this for, making a lot of habit change. And he talks about there being a first gear and a second gear. I don't think he has more than two gears, but basically, first gear is understanding all of your triggers and the rewards. So what was the circumstance? Why did you do it? What was the change you were looking for? That's first gear. So we're just looking for what is the first gear piece. And then tomorrow we're going to talk about, and now we know some of the other things, some of the replacement things that we can do instead of the behavior that we're doing now. But tomorrow we're going to talk about how to unwind those habits that we have now and start to replace them with the habits that we have in the future. So that's going to be tomorrow. So for today, I have a handout for you. So it's basically a sheet that you can print out or you can just do it on a piece of paper. You can go back and look at all of the places where you're um, eating sugar and you like or craving. It doesn't even have to be sugar. Sometimes for me, it's chips. So for me, it used to be sugar, but now it's chips. So now I would do this exercise for tortilla chips or potato chips. I love all kinds of chips. So that's what I'm working on now. So whatever it is that you're super craving, could be pasta, could be, whatever. There's a biological piece to it. That's why we talked about eating for blood sugar balance. But then there's also the brain science piece of it is what is the change that you are trying to get? And mapping that out, and we're starting to get an idea of what different things that we could do in that situation. So this handout has the first column is the circumstance. You're going to look at what are all the places where you were craving? What is the circumstance that happened right before you had the craving? Then what was it that you were thinking and feeling? And how did you want to think and feel? And then what are the other things that you can do that can also produce that same result? So if you want to kind of shortcut this craving or to do something different. So that's the thing that we are going to work on today. So your homework for today is just to look at what are your triggers? Are there certain times of days? Are there certain events? For the things that you crave, and what is it that you're trying to feel? Do you have an idea? So at the start of this, you might not know what it is that you were feeling and how you were trying to feel, because sometimes this loop happens so often that we don't even register the thought or the feeling. It happens so quickly we don't even register the thought and the feeling. It doesn't even get to the conscious level. It's already wired in. So some of it you may not really know um, initially, but you can still kind of map out when are you craving and what else can you do. So I will post that for you in the homework and we'll work on that. All right. Have a good day.